Hello and welcome to FPL Malbo. My name is Andy and it's my team selection video ahead of game week 24 for you today. Didn't get a chance to record a video last week, so I'll take you through how I've done in the last couple of weeks and then we'll have a look at my team going forward. Transfer strategy, chip strategy, we've got double game weeks, blank game weeks. It feels like we're really starting the business end of the season. So a lot to cover, let's jump straight into it. So, game week 22, it was pretty poor. I almost doubled my rank down to 61k, only 48 points. A couple of reasons. I brought in Haaland and I captained him. I made it as a spur of the minute decision. I don't regret bringing him in, despite the fact that he only got 1 point off the bench. I do regret throwing the captaincy armband on him. Basically, I listened to the press conference. He sort of suggested that, well, he said that Haaland was fully fit, or at least, he was going to play some part in the game. And he sort of suggested that because it wasn't a muscular injury, he could be straight back into the team. It wasn't the same as Kevin De Bruyne, and that he was going to be really eased back in. So yeah, I took a risk and threw the captaincy on him. I'd say I don't regret bringing him back in at all because it was a transfer I was going to make at some point, and I didn't really know what to do with my transfers. I wanted a bit more information on people like Mo Salah. So I thought, making the transfer that was a bank transfer I was going to make at some point anyway was the right decision. But throwing the captaincy on him was a very poor choice. Going through the rest of my team, defence was absolutely terrible. Trent, I thought, he came on in the FA Cup, so I thought he's going to be straight back in the team and starting. He didn't. He came off the bench for a 1-pointer. A double Arsenal defence, and they conceded in the last minute to ruin my clean sheet, so that's 10 points gone there. And then I benched Solanke, Branthwaite as well. So, big points on the bench. Poor overall, but I mean, as well, like Solanke, I probably could have played, but I kind of thought Bowen would start or not play at all. So I thought it was worth risking him, even though he was an injury doubt. And of course, he played and did absolutely nothing, whereas Solanke scored. So, yeah, decision making backfired, but still in a point where I didn't mind my team going forward. And then last game week, it's a pretty similar story on the defence. Ezri Konsa goes off injured, 58th minute. I wish could he not just have stayed down injured for another 2 minutes? They were on for a clean sheet and they finished with a clean sheet in that game. And then Trent started this time but came off after, I think, again, 55. It was just under the 60-minute mark. To be honest, he played pretty poorly in that game against Arsenal, so I'm not saying he would have got something if he continued, but I've sort of ruled out any sort of injury doubt over Trent. I think he's been back fully fit for weeks, and he clearly isn't. Because he wasn't given 90 minutes again. Pedro Porro again, another one. Dubravka conceded. I went with him over Raya. That was only a 1-point swing. Both of them were obviously conceded in their games. Pedro Porro is an interesting one. I've sort of had a little bit of a doubt about him when Maddison came back, because Tottenham aren't keeping clean sheets, and the only reason he's been so great over the last few weeks is because he's been on set pieces and he's so attacking from open play that he gets goals and assists. Well, he's had a little run of blanks, but actually he's still been on some set pieces. He's kind of shared them with Maddison since he's back, so he's one to keep an eye on, but I'm not desperate to get rid yet, despite the fact that he's had some blanks. In the defence, I'm glad I didn't go Gabriel. Unlucky with an own goal, but it was shambolic defending, which was kind of the story of that game, to be honest. Arsenal, Liverpool. But Branthwaite goes and scores off the bench. I try not to get too upset with those decisions because I was never starting Branthwaite, and he's not a big goal scorer, so it's an unlikely series of events. But it still points out on my bench. Midfield, Gordon got an assist and goes off. Obviously, finished 4 each that game. 4 Newcastle goals. I would have expected Gordon to be involved in more of them. I think he will be out for the next game week and probably be back in for 25. But I'll talk a bit more about that on my team selection. Midfield was great. 8 points from Palmer. Richarlison got himself 2 goals and Foden got himself 3 goals. until Foden got his hat-trick, I was looking at just an absolute disastrous game week. And in the end, it's another red arrow, but it's not terrible. It was like 20k further down. Alvarez, Solanke 2 points. Haaland got an assist, was not involved in that game at all, really. Couldn't get himself into it. But he did play, I think, 88 minutes. He came off right at the end. And yeah, it happens. There are games where teams play really low block against City. Brentford, incidentally, were excellent in that game, and City still could have absolutely destroyed them. I think 3-1. Almost feels fair, I guess. They defended really, really well, but City was so lively, and Foden was superb in it. And yeah, I think looks a really good pick going forward. He looks as nailed for minutes as he's ever looked in a City shirt, I think. So yeah, happy to own him. And right up until the end, I had Saka in front of Alvarez, and I changed my mind on it and regret that. And it shows you don't always have to play the fixtures. Saka's just a generally good option. Like, he's such a good player that, yeah, it was a tougher fixture, but I probably should have just had Saka in my team. But, hindsight is 2020. Ezri Konsa's injury is my biggest worry going forward. So I have made a transfer early. I'd say early. I made it today, and the deadline is tomorrow, so it's not that early. I've actually brought in Harry Maguire. He is, I think, the best, cheapest option. I had a look at Van Heck as well from Brighton, who started the last few, but I still don't think he's quite as nailed as Maguire is going to be with Martinez out. We've seen, I haven't seen Lindelof for ages. I know he's been injured. I don't even know if he's an option, but I think Maguire's definitely ahead of him in pecking order. And we've seen Luke Shaw play at centre-back, but they haven't got another left-back option, really, I don't think, at the moment, with Marcia out. He could play Wan-Bissaka at right-back and Dalot left-back, but Wan-Bissaka's also been out of favour. So, yeah, I think Maguire's pretty now for minutes. The United defence has been pretty good. Their fixtures are good coming up. They've got City in a few weeks, but aside from that, I would happily start him in any of the next sort of 5 or 6. But realistically, probably don't need to. So, yeah, it was a way to take a little bit of money out of my team. It was to get rid of an injured player. It was to get somebody in who didn't blank next game week, because obviously I think it's Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea and Luton are not playing. So, yeah, it seems like a good one for squad balance, even if it's not exciting. And most importantly, it kind of put off any sort of decision-making for building my team for the double game week and then following blank game week in 25 and 26. Because I've got a lot of thoughts of what I might do for that. But using one transfer this week and saving 2 for the following week, it keeps my options open a little more. So, yeah, that's my transfer for this week. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm looking at doing for game week 25. So here are my favourite options at the moment. I've just labelled them A, B and C. I want to talk a little bit about who I'm targeting and who I think you should be targeting as well. So I have one Liverpool player. Liverpool have the easiest double out of any of the doublers, which is just Man City and Liverpool, I say that. But if Mo Salah was back, then he would be my target number 1. I don't think I'm going to take a risk on it unless he's on the bench this weekend, because from what Klopp said in his press conference, it sounds like he's got a chance of playing next week. And that means, to me, I think he'll probably be on the bench. I definitely can't see him starting both games. I don't think he's worth the risk, considering I'd have to tear up my squad structure. Now, if he makes the bench this week, game week 24, if he plays, then maybe I'll think about it, and it won't be any of these 3 options. But at the moment, I'm going to presume that Salah's not going to be in my thoughts, and this is what I'm looking at. So I only have Trent for Liverpool. I want a second Liverpool player. ideally an attacker. I don't really want to double up on the Liverpool defence. Diego Jota is probably my favourite out of them. And I can also manage to bring in Ivan Toney with the money that I have in the bank. And that would mean that Solanke and Richarlison would leave my team. Now, this would be my favourite option if it wasn't that I had to get rid of Richarlison. I've currently got 4 players who are unavailable in Game Week 26. If I did that transfer and I brought in Jota for Richarlison, Toney for Solanke, I would still have 4 players that are unavailable for Game Week 26 because Richarlison had just swapped for Jota. And I would quite happily make the Liverpool one a 1-week punt. The fixtures that they've got in that double are so good. I think it's worth it just to bring Jota in and immediately take him back out again. I'd have him for 2 matches in 1 game week. And yeah, Jota's my favourite out of the Liverpool options. I think he's the best finisher outside of Mo Salah, like in the club. Seems to prefer playing Nunes on the left, which means that Luis Diaz has been playing on the right, and instead of Mo Salah, and Jota through the middle. I think Gakpo is probably kind of the 5th option out of those 5 players. The reason that I'm not completely sold on this as an option is Richarlison. Now, Richarlison has a blank in Game Week 26, but he's one of the few players that in my team that is guaranteed to play in Game Week 29. Now, if you're not aware, the FA Cup next round is going to be Game Week 29, and at the moment there's only 3 fixtures that are guaranteed to be on, and that is Burnley versus Brentford, Spurs versus Fulham, and because Aston Villa lost to Chelsea in a replay, it means that West Ham and Villa will be on as well. I would like to not use my free hit in that week. I'll go into why on another video and do more of a kind of strategy guide, I guess. But in short, I never think it's worth it. I think you just end up bringing players that you're going to get a lot of 2-pointers for when there's only like 3 or 4 fixtures. Now, there is a chance that other fixtures may be on it, but a lot of Premiership teams have been drawn against Championship teams in the next FA Cup round. And I think that, I think there might be maybe like 1 upset, 2 upsets, might have 4 or 5 games on. And yeah, the idea of free hitting to bring in triple Fulham, I just don't think the upside is worth it. So holding on to somebody like Richarlison suddenly seems like a much better option. Plus, he's been in great form. I'm not desperate to get him out of my team. So that brings me on to option B, which is to get rid of Palmer instead of Richarlison. Now, Chelsea have got Leeds in the next round of the FA Cup. If they were to lose that, then obviously their fixture against Arsenal would be on in Game Week 29. But as things stand, it looks like that's likely to be off. They've got a blank next game week. If they blank in 29 as well, I thought Palmer might be a season holder for me, but there's just enough blanks that he's worth getting rid of, I think, for me. And also they've got tough fixtures around that. It's like even if that fixture is on in Game Week 29, it's against Arsenal. So yeah, not absolutely desperate to keep hold of him. But with the money that I have, it would mean that I'd have to get Luis Diaz instead of Diego Jota. Same things applies though. I'd have him for the double, probably get rid of him afterwards. Now, option C is completely different. I think if you look at the City assets, I think that the best 3 to own are Haaland, Foden, and Kevin De Bruyne. I still have doubts whether Kevin De Bruyne is going to start all 3 of the next 3 games, this game week and the double. But I think you can argue that he will get enough minutes that he's worth it. He's come back looking really sharp. And I think the triple up in the City attack is better than having a double attack and 1 defender. City just concede 1 every week. Like it's just been going on for a while now, and none of the defenders have enough upside. They just don't have an attacking upside, really. So yeah, I think that the best double up is to get Kevin De Bruyne in. The only way that I can do it, really, for a start, I have Alvarez, who He's still getting good minutes and actually scored a brace last week. But generally speaking, I think he's dropped off a little bit and he's not as good an option playing deeper in midfield with Haaland back as well. So I could swap him for Darwin Núñez and I could bring De Bruyne in for Saka. I don't hate it as a plan, but I'm bringing in somebody who is blanking in 25 without getting rid of somebody that's blanking in 25. So it would mean that I'd only be able to field 10 players. Not the end of the world, but I don't love it. I don't know whether De Bruyne. I still have those doubts about whether De Bruyne's going to start all of those games, and also getting rid of Saka, who's just a consistent point getter. He doesn't get big hauls, but he gets consistent points. If I was putting money on it right now, option B is probably my favourite. But I think it's the best going forward, but it means that I don't have my favourite Liverpool options or my favourite City options, and that's difficult. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking going forward. Just to say as well, Ivan Toney doesn't look brilliant for the double, but does look brilliant going forward. He has no blanks when everybody else is blanking. They've got good fixtures. He looks really sharp since he's come back. He does have a double in 25. In 25. It's against City and Liverpool, so it's really tough. But I'm more than happy to own Toney, knowing that he plays in 29, knowing that he doesn't blank in game week 25. Like he's just a good option going forward. So it will be more of a long term and kind of fingers crossed, I guess, for that double in 25 for him. So yeah, my favourite option is B, but let me know in the comments what you think going forward. So this is the team going into game week 24. Obviously, I've been talking about my options for game week 25. I'm happy to put off that decision for another week. Harry Maguire, as you can see, is coming for F3 Concert. Concert's going to be out for a month, so it seems sensible to get rid of him. Anthony Gordon, I think I'm going to bench anyway, and Branthwaite will stay on my bench despite the fact that he keeps getting points because I don't want to play him against City away. Now, at the moment, I've gone for Dubravka in goal over Raya. I keep getting stung with the double Arsenal defence. I think just spreading the options around, I feel a little safer in it with having Dubravka and then Gabriel in the defence. Trent Alexander-Arnold against Burnley. Fingers crossed for that one. Hopefully he'll get a start in 90 minutes. They're one of the worst defences in the league, so some attacking returns would be lovely. Pedro Porro against Brighton. There must be some goals in that one. The two teams that concede a lot and score a lot. So let's hope for some attacking returns there. Richarlison, I've currently given the vice captain. Like I say, I fancy him against the Brighton defence, and he's been just in great form at the moment. Son possibly coming back into that team. I don't think that's going to hurt. Him coming onto the left, I think he'll still continue to play up front. And it'll be Timo Werner that drops out. That's my guess, anyway. Palmer against Crystal Palace. Palace have been really poor recently, so it is part of the reason that I'm not desperate to rush a Liverpool attacker in, even though they've got that Burnley fixture. I do just like my midfield at the moment. Foden against Everton at home. And then Saka against West Ham away. It's a tougher fixture, but West Ham haven't been at their best recently. So let's hope for returns in that one. Solanke, I need to stop benching because he just keeps scoring goals, starting against Fulham. And then the double City attack. It wouldn't surprise me if Alvarez didn't start that game. I don't see Pep picking the team that he picked against Brentford that often. With Foden, Alvarez, Haaland, De Bruyne, and Bernardo Silva all playing. It was outrageously attacking. I think for balance, I can see one of sort of Kovacic or Núñez coming into that midfield to give a little bit more solidity, but who knows? You've also got Doku on the bench, another attacking option, and Grealish, even though he's a bit out of favour. But yeah, I don't know. I don't mind taking a risk starting Alvarez. He's been pretty secure for minutes all season. I think Pep obviously likes him, so yeah, hopefully there'll be points there. Captaincy on Haaland, been birds on that before, but I don't see where else I'm going to go with it. So that's it for my team selection ahead of game week 24. Let me know in the comments what you think of my transfer plans for 25 as well, and which is the best option. If you've enjoyed these videos and found them useful, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll leave it there for now. Catch you on another video.